Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan, and this is a video I sure didn't see myself having to make any time in my life, but here we are. And yeah, Ali Tabrizi, the director of Seaspiracy, recently put out a video as well as a parallel article on his Substack about how he's no longer 100% vegan. So in my response here, I'm going to focus mainly on his YouTube video, but I will refer time to time to his Substack article because some of the most damning things he said about vegans and veganism is found there. And as some of you longtime viewers may know, we've known Ali Tabrizi. I haven't seen him in a long time, but he visited with us a few times over the years. Here's some video footage of him meeting with us in 2016. He actually did a little video here in this very room with Angie. And I want to get one thing clear from the very outset here about my response video, why I'm making it. If Ali had just turned vegetarian, as he seems to have become now, I mean, he's a free-thinking adult. He has free will. I can't control him. I'm not like some fascist leader of the vegan cult here or anything like that. But if that's all he'd done, I would have been bummed, but I would have not made a response video like I'm doing here. The only reason why I'm responding to Ali not being vegan anymore is all this crap that he said on the way out. As I'll show you, he used many powerful, emotional manipulation techniques, both in his YouTube video and his Substack article. Specifically, emotional appeal through personal struggle, the undermining of ideological opponents, and incremental ethical drifting using relatable anecdotes. And there's big logical problems as well, such as moving goalposts, false equivalence, and nirvana fallacy, just to name a few.
The reason why I'm making this video is because I actually think, as someone who lived and breathed veganism and promoted it to many, many people, I think I've been responsible for actually spreading a kind of dangerous lie that I want to rectify in this video.
Are you talking about some fundamental lie that's part of the essence of what veganism is, or are you just projecting the way that you happen to be a vegan activist?
I began to realize, and I'll explain the moment that triggered this, that veganism doesn't actually hold the monopoly to causing the least harm through dietary choices.
So that's the dangerous lie you're talking about that you were spreading? Well, first of all, let's look at the long-standing definition of veganism. It's a stance against animal cruelty and exploitation. The word harm does not appear once in this definition. So therefore, any discussion or comparison or attempt to measure harm done by vegans is irrelevant to what veganism is, because veganism is not a movement to like minimize harm. I call these people harm reductionitarianists, and that's not what veganism is. But what I'm trying to make clear here is we're already seeing his first logical error here. It's a shifting of goalposts away from what the definition of veganism is to other things, such as total net harm, and as we'll see later on, financial hardship or feasibility for your average person who's not wealthy. And might I add, none of these shifted goalpost items have anything to do with animal cruelty. They have nothing to do with animal rights. But anyway, let's get back to his story here. He tells the beginnings of his non-vegan story, how this first came to him on a camping trip with his children.
We wanted to bring marshmallows along, of course, for this beautiful family, memorable moment to roast on the fire. But as a vegan, of course, you have to think about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with Ali. As a vegan, there's certain circumstances where you really have to think about what you're going to eat. If I'm going to, like, say, a baseball game, well, they have vegan stuff there. Some ballparks do, some don't. But I don't say, oh, they don't have vegan stuff there, I'm just going to eat the meat. Well, anyway, yeah, if you knew you were going camping, there's many things you could have done ahead of time. You could have brought your own, like, say, homemade stuff. There's recipes that you could easily make vegan marshmallows from. I also want to point out, too, you don't have to have marshmallows when you go camping. I've had vegan marshmallows on some camping trips. Most of them I don't, but that's neither here nor there. That's his decision for him. If he feels like he has to have marshmallows, well, here's all the hoops he's complaining about he had to jump through to try to find, at the last second, without any prior planning, trying to find some vegan marshmallows.
So in order to get vegan marshmallows, me and my family had to drive half an hour into the city to a place we never go to a specialty vegan store to buy vegan marshmallows. And then we obviously had to drive half an hour back, and we had to go over a toll bridge this time. That's $5.60 each way, so it's like $11 or something total, $12 or something. Each way to the full trip, and so it's about an hour's journey. We're already tired parenting all this effort to get vegan marshmallows, and the vegan marshmallows that we got were a very small bag that cost about $16 for about less than 300 grams. $16. On the way home, I'm doing the maths in my head. I'm thinking $16 plus the $11 or so toll bridge, plus the fuel, wear and tear, all the stuff that goes along with owning and running a vehicle. Our time, not only the hour for my wife, but the hour for me, what we could have otherwise done in that time, and the total amount of money that we spent on this whole round trip to get a packet of marshmallows. And I started to think, well, surely if I would have just hypothetically bought the animal gelatin marshmallows at the local supermarket for $2.50 without spending all the fuel and toll bridge fees, And all the money I spared, not even if I gave all of it to an animal sanctuary, even if I just gave a couple of dollars that I saved to an animal sanctuary, surely that's going to do more tangible, measurable good.
Measure of good in what sense? I thought we were talking about veganism, being against animal cruelty and exploitation. So apparently your measure of good doesn't involve animal cruelty and exploitation. You're obviously measuring good in some other way. Furthermore, he uses this marshmallow story as a foot in the door technique. It's an incremental shift in ethics. It starts with, it's, I guess, okay to get the gelatin animal hoof-based marshmallows. And later on, oh, all right, it ain't so bad to get the backyard hens and eggs, and just a slippery slope to full-on eating animals in a slow, incremental way.
When it comes to things like gelatin, it's really an afterthought of the animal agriculture industry. It's not the thing that the industry hinges on. It's not the thing that it gets most of its profits from. It's not the things justifying the entire industry. It really is a byproduct, as much as vegans like to deny that.
That sounds like a straw man. I don't know any vegan that says that. We pretty much all know that gelatin's a byproduct of the animal agriculture industry. But more importantly here, let's look at this ethical comparison he's making here. He's trying to make it sound like, it might be the case that these what vegans consider less ethical gelatin-based marshmallows might actually be better or less harmful than the vegan alternatives. But what metrics are you actually using to compare harm between the two products? Do you have anything quantifiable? No. And for all the truthfulness and sincerity that his story may have, again, it's just a story. It lacks absolutely any form of intellectual rigor. There's no quantifiable anything in here. We're just supposed to believe his conclusion that gelatin products are okay based on an emotionally charged, manipulative story.
Very well-known vegan activists who speak to a mother who's pushing a pram. She might be carrying a baby in one hand. One toddler's running around. She's got a baby in the pram.
All right, so a poor mother taking care of a child. Another emotionally laden, manipulative story.
And she's said, I'd love to go vegan. I reduce wherever I can, but I just can't do it because I find it too difficult. It's too expensive. And she will inevitably be given this slogan from the vegan activist that's been rehearsed 100 times, which is rice and beans. Rice and beans are really, really cheap. Don't you know that all the poorest people in the world eat rice and beans? Why don't you just eat rice and beans? And for me, this is not only patronizing and unrealistic, but it's borderline insulting.
No, what's insulting is how you're misrepresenting how most vegan activists I know why we bring up rice and beans in the first place. It's as a counterpoint to the assertions from these people we're talking to where they say, oh, vegan food's so expensive. I like to point out some of the least expensive foods you could find in the supermarket are rice, beans, and starches. But nowhere are we saying that's all you're allowed to eat.
Almost every instance I can think of a kind of career vegan activist that I know of does not live on rice and beans.
It'd be helpful if you could be more specific here, and that's a huge weakness of his entire video and article here is it's just too much vague generalities. But I personally don't know any vegan activists, content creators who say that they live on rice and beans. Again, we're claiming that they could be a foundation of what we eat, but not saying that's all you are allowed to eat.
If you take all the vegans in the world, you're probably looking at 0.00001% of the vegans who are choosing to live this kind of whole foods, no oil kind of approach that you're like literally living off rice and beans, and who knows how good their health is long term.
All right, so finally it gives us an actual quantifiable percentage number here, and that's based on nothing. That's just pulled completely out of thin air or his ass. But I want to draw attention to that last little quip he said there about how the long-term health of a whole food plant-based diet is questionable. And I'm laughing because this is a classic anti-vegan talking point. One he would have never been caught dead saying in the past, but now that he's turned against veganism, these non-evidence-based claims are coming out of his mouth. And it's not evidence-based because the evidence points to the contrary, that a well-planned, well-balanced vegan diet is nutritionally adequate in the long term for all people. I invite you, Ollie, to show me any health organization from anywhere in the world that says that the long-term health of a whole food plant-based diet is questionable. And furthermore, to weaken his claim that us vegan content creators are full of shit when we talk about how much beans and rice we actually eat in the real world. Well, when Ollie and his now wife came over in 2016, let me show you what Angie whipped up for him after we went to Farmer's Market.
You don't mind me.
We got brown rice, we got potatoes, we got salsa.
There you go.
And there's also beans too. Yes, we really do eat beans and rice all the time. Not exclusively. In fact, let me just show you randomly the most recent YouTube short Angie made of her 7 vegan meals, which highlights the foods we eat day in and day out. Yeah, it's a lot of beans and rice, but not only beans and rice.
7 vegan meals I made at home, week 54. A quick and easy Instant Pot fried rice with mixed veggies and various flavorings. A big pot of the Southwest chowder from the Happy Healthy Vegan Cookbook for my brother who inspired the recipe. A fresh broccoli, mushroom, and high protein tofu stir fry from the Happy Healthy Vegan Cookbook. Sorry about the terrible lighting. The green bean and potato subji from the Keep a Carb Baby Cookbook over some jasmine rice. A mango banana and ice cream with some added ice to make it nice and cold because it got hot this week. And one of my favorite hot day recipes is an avocado umeboshi onigiri. So good. And I also indulged in a couple of hard shell tacos made with spiced Gardein plantless crumbles and using some avocado oil.
Did you catch that, Ali? We put some oil on there too. We're not afraid of oil.
It's very hypocritical for those vegan activists to make such claims to a struggling mother, especially as most of these activists don't have kids themselves and view it as a sign of grave sin to have kids in the world.
Okay, some more straw manning, portraying most vegans, that was his word, most there, most vegans, over 50% of vegans are supposedly anti-natalist. Like, no, that's complete bullshit. Not sure what kind of vegan crowd you were hanging out with in the past, but please don't project your personal experience onto the rest of us. And when he used that emotionally charged language of struggling mothers, I immediately thought of other anti-vegans who have used this same emotionally charged tactic to portray veganism as some kind of elitist, privileged, bad way of living.
And for women in particular, who have dependents, whether it's 3 small kids or an elderly parent, they can't afford either the time or the...
And that's something...
Bullshit. After that last time we covered Julie Bindel, I heard back from so many of you mothers out there, so many vegan mothers, talking about how it was actually more affordable for you to plan and prepare the vegan diets for your families. I mean, there was so many great comments, and I really want to thank all of you for taking the time to debunk Julie Bindel here in our comments.
Contrary to what people like Julie Bindel there and Ali Tabrizi seems to be suggesting or implying now, there are empirical studies that show people do save money when feeding themselves and their families a vegan diet. For example, in this published study from the Oxford Martin School, they say vegan diets were the most affordable and reduced food costs by up to 1/3. And regarding food accessibility, here in the United States, people with SNAP benefits can choose to, if they want to, go to many farmers markets and buy fresh produce there.
I've actually found that vegans are the most reluctant to donate to animal charities a lot of the time because they believe that they're doing enough.
All right, I'd love to see your data point or argument for this one.
They believe that they're doing enough to save the animals by buying that, $20 Beyond Burger or Impossible Burger.
Again, straw man, expensive Beyond Impossible Burgers aren't necessarily staples of most vegans' diets.
And so what I've found is that there's this immense amount of pride that vegans have in themselves that I also had myself as a vegan for 13 years. I really haven't donated very much money to animal charities at all.
Oh man, Ollie, you're just talking about yourself then. You're just projecting your personal experience onto all us vegans. Please stop it. As I talked about at the beginning of this video, now we're going to see some more ethical drift. It began with him trying to justify gelatin marshmallows. Now he's going to justify backyard egg eating.
Let's take a side-by-side look of tofu and a backyard egg. Now, tofu requires a field, and a field requires for the trees to be destroyed or cut down on.
As I showed earlier how Ali had parroted an anti-vegan talking point from Julie Bindel, well, I'm going to show every time he does such a thing. Here he's repeating something that Paul Saladino says.
How do you grow plants? How is kale grown or spinach grown? It's grown in a field, probably in the Central Valley of California or somewhere, that was at one time trees. And at one time there were voles and mice or, rabbits living there with snakes and beetles and bugs and birds in those trees. And so in order to get to that land to be able to grow plants, you have to cut all that stuff down. Then you have to till the soil.
But as I showed before, Paul has no problem with cutting trees and plants down to make this happen in the Central Valley.
The largest cow raising operation on the west coast of the United States sits right next to Interstate 5. Thousands of people drive right by the facility every day. They smell the foul air long before they reach the 800-acre feedlot, where over 100,000 cows are confined at a time.
But yes, Paul and Ollie are right. You have to clear out a field to plant plants in order to grow them. But Ollie has even further problems with the production of soy and tofu.
You now need the equipment used to till the field, and yes, insects might get killed in the process, small mammals might get killed, sure, that happens in a lot of different forms of agriculture. Once you harvest the beans, you need to take it to a factory for processing. That factory also needs to be built using a lot of resources, a lot of machinery. Workers need to work in that factory. Those workers are not vegan. The wages that a vegan is helping to pay for by the demand for the tofu is going to pay for a worker who's eventually going to buy animals to eat anyway.
So somehow it's a problem for veganism if non-vegans are working in the tofu factory. I mean, this is a complete textbook example of the nirvana fallacy. It's trying to undermine veganism by saying our solution to the problem of animal cruelty and exploitation isn't perfect because there's workers in the tofu factories that aren't vegan and they're going to buy meat. So because of that, we should abandon veganism.
Once the tofu is produced, it needs to be packed in plastic, it needs to be refrigerated in the place that's being produced, on the vehicle that's being transported on, in the shop that's holding it, and then at home. So you've got also refrigeration, you've got electricity, you've got transport, and you've got land impact, and so on. The tofu isn't usually produced in your own country, or those beans at least, so they need to be shipped around the world.
Again, he's speaking in these broad generalities. Be specific. Talk about your own story, your own specific circumstances there, Ollie, because I did a quick search online and there's plenty of local Australian tofu and soy producers. And I just looked in my fridge for the hell of it to see where the tofu I bought at the market yesterday came from, and it came from the next state closest to mine.
Side by side with an egg from a chicken that was rescued in your garden, eating bugs on the ground or eating scraps of food that you left behind, producing an egg. Which one's more ethical?
Once again, Ollie, how are you measuring or quantifying what is ethical? It doesn't seem to be in terms of animal cruelty and exploitation, because why did you go on that whole tirade about the environmental damage of growing tofu? So what Ollie is actually up to here is trying to downplay the known environmental benefits of vegan and plant-based diets by implying that sometimes some non-vegan foods might cause less harm. If we look at this Nature Food study published in 2023, it showed that vegan diets resulted in 75% less climate heating emissions, water pollution, and land use than diets in which more than 100 grams of meat was eaten a day. Furthermore, the United Nations has ranked which diets are the most climate friendly, and take a wild guess as to what's number one. Yeah, it's vegan diets. As far as I see it, Ollie's comparing backyard eggs to tofu. He's committed an equivalency fallacy, which is where someone incorrectly asserts that two things are equivalent or similar when they have significant differences. Saying that buying imported tofu from another country is worse than buying local animal-based backyard eggs, when he actually has absolutely zero data points to make this comparison. In contrast, I showed you several data points, including a study and a recommendation from the United Nations. So who are you going to believe? A hypothetical thought experiment or actual evidence-based information? Furthermore, even if we went with his thought experiment of having a rescued backyard chicken laying eggs, I believe that's still exploitative to the chicken. If you look at what the definition of exploitation is, it's the use of something to get an advantage of it. And the fact of the matter is, selective breeding of chickens has produced chickens that are unhealthy. They've been bred to produce eggs at such a prolific rate. This selective breeding can lead to health issues like skeletal and metabolic disorders, heart problems, and even sudden death. So if you don't see anything exploitative about a chicken who's been selectively bred to have such health issues so that humans can take advantage of it, i.e. exploitation, I have nothing more to say to you about morality. I also want to add, it's not necessary for humans to consume eggs in order to get all their nutrients or anything like that. If so, I should be dead because I haven't had an egg in over like 15 years.
This concession, this example, debunks the entire moral framework of 100% absolute abolitionist veganism, because you therefore ought to be eating more eggs if you want to help protect animals elsewhere or have a lower impact elsewhere.
No, sorry, your thought experiment / anecdotes pale in the comparison of actual real data. So let me present some actual data here to show that your harm reductionitarianist argument here doesn't hold true. If you really want to harm or kill the fewest amount of animals, you would have no choice other than to eat a vegan diet. Let's look at this mathematical model which calculates or estimates how many animals are killed both during slaughter and harvest, intentional and accidental kills of animals. And if you look at the bottom of the graph here, you'll see grains, fruits, vegetables, those involve the fewest numbers of animals being killed. I do realize that the eggs in this mathematical model were not backyard eggs, but Ollie's suggestion that we should eat backyard eggs, like, that's completely ridiculous. Like, how can you just sustain yourself on backyard eggs if you're trying to do the least amount of harm? That's totally not possible. It's unhealthy. I don't know any health organization that would recommend eat nothing but eggs. So, but back in the real world here, to get away from Ollie's crazy thought experiment of just consuming backyard eggs to cause the least amount of harm, again, just eat a vegan diet. It wins on the least amount of harm if you're measuring on that front. And as I showed earlier, it's the most climate-friendly diet. But remember, I'm vegan because I'm against animal cruelty and exploitation. It's just a really nice side benefit that it also kicks butt in these other areas. I know this video is getting kind of long, but I just want to quickly take a look at some of the outrageous things he said about vegans on his Substack article. Several times he mentions how vegans think of themselves as being morally superior. And one of the examples, he's using himself as an example. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here that he's just telling about his own personal story, but please don't project your personal bit onto the rest of us vegans once again. This one, Ollie can't wiggle his way out. He's calling veganism as some kind of orthorexia, which is an eating disorder. Veganism is not an eating disorder. We choose to not eat certain foods because they are not in alignment with our morals and ethics. Like, would you call a person orthorexic because they avoid, say, eggplant because they dislike the texture of eggplant? Hell no, that would be absurd. Same thing, just because vegans choose not to eat animal products for ethical reasons does not make us orthorexic. And I'm not sure if he's calling all vegans or some vegans as being cultish. And who am I to disagree with that, right? And Ollie, if you're watching this video, best wishes to you and Lucy. I still think you guys are good people, despite my complaints about what you said. I have nothing against the person you are. I have problems and issues with the many things I brought up here about what you said about veganism, the misinformation, the logical fallacies, and so on. Like I said, if you just made a video saying, I'm older now, I have kids, and it's just kind of inconvenient to make sure I always have vegan stuff for the kids, I get it. Not to say I'd be totally stoked about it, but I would understand, and I would have made a response video here. It's just throwing veganism under the bus as you and like say others have done. That's why I make a response video. So it's nothing personal. It's strictly about the information that you said in your video and Substack article. So anyway, guys, comment down below. Let me know what you thought about all this. Did you see this coming? What'd you think about the examples it gave? Why he needed to not be vegan anymore? I still didn't see any compelling reason other than he just wanted to make it easier to hang out with his kids and stuff and maybe start a whole new career now as a political podcaster. I'm doing less vegan YouTube than I was in 2016. I'm doing more music production, but I'm still vegan. There's nothing incompatible about the two at the same time. So you guys, comment down below, hit like, share this video, and if Ollie or anyone else watching thinks I've totally screwed up here, I've misunderstood, I've misrepresented somehow, come to my Friday live stream and be very specific and tell me what your accusations are, because I'm going off the exact words that Ollie put out there. I'm not trying to strawman anyone. So Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll see you guys then, and remember, just like being vegan.